Welcome everyone to the webinar of the 2020 Summer Wellness Series, Emotional Wellness, Learning How to Be Attentive to Both Positive and Negative Feelings, presented by Dr. Jacqueline Smith. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The City of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. The Summer Wellness Series is presented in partnership with the Taylor Institute for Teaching and Learning and the Campus Mental Health Strategy. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and published online to be viewed after. My name is Dr. Melissa Boyce. I'm the Academic Coordinator of the Embedded Certificate in Mental Wellbeing and Resilience, and I will be your moderator. With me today, I have Dr. Cheryl Jeffs, Educational Development Consultant at the Taylor Institute, who will be co-moderating the Q&A and reflection portions of the webinar. Please note that the chat box and your name display will be edited out of the final recording. Note that at any time, if you speak into your microphone, your voice will be recorded. All microphones and videos are turned off except for the facilitator to ensure your webinar experience is not disrupted with other video images or sounds. There will also be time at the end for Q&A, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as possible. Feel free to use the chat box during the presentation to ask questions and to provide reflection messages. If you would like to send a private message with a question or reflection, please send to hashtag or #questions. At this time, I want to introduce our presenter, Dr. Jacqueline Smith. Jacqueline is an assistant professor and the director of mental health and wellness in the Faculty of Nursing at the University of Calgary. She is an educator, graduate student supervisor, and published researcher within her field of study that addresses addiction and mental health across the lifespan. She is a family counselor, trauma, EMDR therapist, and mindfulness practitioner with a private practice that focuses on addiction and family wellness. Furthermore, she is a member of the Alberta Children's Hospital Research Institute, the Matheson Centre for Mental Health Education, and the Alberta Family Wellness Initiative. Welcome, Jacqueline, and over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for that introduction, Melissa. And just thank you to the entire Summer Wellness team who have been so helpful in the preparation for this presentation. I am so excited to be with you all today. And although it's a little bit of a different experience not being able to see your faces as we talk about how we're taking care of our emotional well-being, but I do trust that this will be an interactive session. I do want you to know that because of the topic, there's times when discussions around emotional wellness triggers distressful emotions. So I really do want to say that if you're having any of those experiences, please reach out to someone who you trust so you can process those feelings. Also, at the end of the presentation, there'll be a plethora of resources that you can draw on as well. So if you see me looking up, it's just because I have a larger monitor above my laptop that I'm using to guide the presentation. Emotional wellness and emotional regulation are two of my favorite topics, and I just believe that based on the amount of people who have registered for the session today, tells me that this is an important topic. So in this session, we will be exploring principles of emotional regulation that enhance our ability to successfully manage and adapt to life's ups and downs. So as you all know, we are definitely living in unprecedented times where we have been riding the emotional waves of COVID-19 for the past 4 months. So as the science tries to catch up with this pandemic, as a society, we are attempting to adjust to our ever-changing environment and our way of living. I've really appreciated Jennifer's presentation last month on resilience and just that understanding of our capacity to be resilient. What really stood out for me is the realization that despite our circumstances, there is always something that we can control. So to me, That is a huge message of hope that we can successfully ride the emotional highs and lows of everyday life, COVID and all, and we can learn to manage and adapt to our circumstances. Today, we're going to explore simple emotional regulation strategies, most of which you will be familiar with, but maybe haven't taken that leap or that dive into them yet. Surprisingly, this is a subject that we don't talk a lot about, how to be emotionally well. But I believe that COVID has invited some of these conversations. Over the years, what I've learned is that my ability to ride the emotional waves of life requires purposeful self-care practices. And exploring the plethora of self-care options has been a really fun journey. The experience has been like building a personal curriculum of knowledge, of skills, and attitudes to support emotional health and well-being. But one of the most exciting aspects of emotional regulation is the concept of neuroplasticity, or our brain's ability to adapt to changes in our environment and create new and helpful neural pathways. So today, we are going to tap into some of those amazing processes as we explore intentional wellness practices together. So just to keep in mind, I'm an experiential educator as well as a qualitative researcher. So as such, I rely on real life stories and experiences to explore phenomena and may throw in a few of my own. But throughout this presentation, I really hope that you will take time to mentally explore your own personal experiences and your stories that relate to your emotional wellness. And just take time to consider what strategies have been adaptive to your well-being, and perhaps some that maybe have not been so adaptive. So please note that there will be times in the presentation when I'll just ask you to take a moment just to self-reflect. And then there'll also, like Melissa said, there will also be purposeful chat, reflective pauses where I will ask for your reflections, and Melissa and Cheryl will be monitoring and summarizing your thoughts. And then at the conclusion, we will have a Q&A. So I know that was a huge introduction, but I think it's so important because this, it's a multi-layered subject. So, healthy habit log. Now, you all should have received this by nature of your registration. And if you haven't, then Liz will be putting it in the chat. So this healthy habit log comes from the Crises and Trauma Resource Institute, or the CTRI. It's a public document. And again, you should all have one. So as you participate in this webinar today, what I'd like you to do, what I'd invite you to do, is to keep track of your existing healthy behaviors and self-care practices. And I want this to be a form of validation for you that you were already making good choices to support your well-being. Perhaps as well, you will hear and or practice something today that you would like to add to your list of healthy habits. So what we'll do at the end, we will revisit this and maybe talk a little bit about some of the things that you uncovered for yourself. So the definition of emotional wellness, is there one? So when we talk about emotional wellness, we are talking about our ability to sit with our feelings and be attentive to both those that are positive and negative. If you're like the majority of humans, then your coping strategies may include avoiding, dismissing, or even suppressing negative experience, feelings, or emotions that occur in our everyday lives. As for me, staying busy has been my default. So busy that I often don't have time to think about those uncomfortable experiences. Often what happens though is that busyness without limits catches up with me. I hit a wall and I feel ultimately overwhelmed. I've had to look at this. So distracting or rationalizing is a common way to stop what you're feeling. There are times when we actually want to interrupt highly intensive emotions. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later on in the presentation. But in general, we want to be able to learn how to pause, think about what we're feeling, and navigate that full spectrum, including learning to really sit with the good, the view at the top of the mountain after the hike. It's really important that we learn how to sit with the good as well as the uncomfortable. So, emotional wellness relies on self-care, relaxation, and stress reduction techniques just to build that inner strength. It's about, again, our ability to learn and grow from all of our experiences. Over the years, I have come to understand that I can learn and grow from all of my experiences if I stay open to the possibilities and to the hidden treasures. So emotional wellness is it's a fluid process. It's not something that we're going to arrive at today, but actually is a journey rather than a destination that requires, again, reflection and awareness of how our circumstances, our lifestyles, and our beliefs may be impacting our emotions. I'm still learning new ways. Preparing for this presentation has actually reopened some of those practices that were collecting dust. I'm guessing that COVID has had a huge impact on your lives and your emotions. As a family counselor, many of my clients' struggles are directly related to COVID and are connected to stress, to that fear of the unknown, separation from the family, multitasking, work and family, abrupt changes in activities, just that lack of human contact, lack of choices, or worries about other people. So I would just like you just to take a moment for self-reflection and just consider what has been most distressing for you over the past 4 months, or even before COVID? And what have you relied on to relieve some of that stress? So I really hope that today's presentation helps you become aware of how well you have been managing to maintain a sense of balance, emotional wellness, and contentment. This is a critical piece when discussing emotional wellness. So there are times in our life when we feel balanced and content. However, feeling off kilter is also a common and inevitable experience. Each of us experience stress differently. It depends on our personal characteristics, our experiences, our social and economic circumstances, and just the availability of local resources. And it's normal to feel sad, distressed, worried, confused, scared, or angry when experiencing a situation such as COVID-19. However, signs of severe emotional distress, such as persistent insomnia, interpersonal problems, disabling fear, increased use of alcohol or drugs, and or just that increasing isolation, all of these may indicate the need for professional support. My presentation today is solution-focused and will be filled with tools to help us emotionally regulate and feel emotionally well. However, there are times when life becomes completely overwhelming and when we have to reach out and ask for help and not go it alone. I really love this mental health continuum model that was originally introduced by the Department of National Defense and has also been used by the Mental Health Commission of Canada. What I like about the mental health continuum model is that it's bidirectional, indicating that life is in constant flux and can change from one day to the next. I actually see this continuum as a roadmap with actions to take at each stage of the continuum. In the green phase, we see how normal fluctuations in mood can be managed just with healthy lifestyles, breaking down the issue and problem solving. Whereas in the yellow phase, when life throws a curveball, such as your car breaking down, we can become irritable, stressed, and perhaps you can't afford the repairs. You develop a tension headache. However, there are actions you can take. Take a transit temporarily, or start jogging to work. Inquire into a line of credit at your bank. Just recognizing your limitations and talking it through with a partner or a trusted friend. The orange zone refers to emotional injury. And I think of unexpected deaths when I think of this, that cause deep sadness, disturbed sleep, some anxiety, social avoidance, and perhaps decreased performance at work. This is a time when you need to seek support and talk with somebody about your sadness. Maybe even seek out a counselor to help you get through this difficult time of your life. And then there's a red zone. When real or imagined experiences create excessive anxiety, depression, anger, sleep disturbances, when your exhaustion is causing physical illness, and when you are unable to perform your normal duties and are isolating and avoiding just social events, symptoms such as these that persist longer than 2 weeks or even earlier, but if they persist, they require professional support and possible medicinal management and psychotherapy. Yet what is important, if there's anything you take away from this, what's important is that symptoms such as these in the red or even the orange zone can be treated and even diagnosed and supported with the right professional help. Once treated, many can transition right back into the healthy zone and successfully manage everyday life. What's important here is education and awareness, such as this, facilitates empowerment. When you know when to ask for help, and when you become familiar with the self-care tools and actions that can support the emotional highs and lows in life, then life becomes manageable. So we can't have a discussion about emotional wellness and mental illness without addressing self-care stigma, or just that guilt or the shame felt by those with mental illness. Unfortunately, this can become a barrier for seeking the support of family, peers, and professionals. Please know that you are not alone if you're experiencing anxiety or depression, as these are the two most common mental health disorders that have been reported during COVID-19. These conditions are not character flaws, but are real health problems that may require supportive intervention. In fact, anxiety and depression are the two most commonly experienced disorders in Canada, affecting 1 in 10 Canadians. So again, please know that if you are experiencing any form of mental health disorder, you are not alone. These disorders are very common experiences. You are among 1 in 5 Canadians affected by mental illness. So again, supportive interventions that may include medication, along with effective self-care practices that we're going to talk about today, and emotional regulation are key to optimizing your emotional health and well-being. So I don't know about you, but I am with Charlie Brown, one of my favorite characters. I'm at a place in my life where peace is a priority. I make deliberate life choices to protect my mental, emotional, and my spiritual health. the bottom line is that nurturing your mind is as important as nurturing your body, and it will make you better able to handle whatever life throws at you. So many of us struggle to identify, excuse me, what exactly we're feeling. There are a variety of reasons why this happens, and why this is so difficult. So perhaps we were discouraged to express these feelings in our childhood. So suppression of our feelings has become a learned behavior. Maybe there are certain, sometimes unspoken societal and organizational rules against expressing them. Have you ever heard of the expression, suck it up, buttercup? Or perhaps we've never learned a language to accurately describe our emotions. So I decided to begin with this exercise because it was an exercise that was well received by students in the Faculty of Nursing in one of our wellness drop-in sessions. So what we did in our faculty in late spring, we started running 1-hour wellness drop-in sessions, some of them over the lunch hour, some a little bit later on in the day. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to support those who felt they needed just some additional support with COVID. So we have wellness drop-ins, we have Indigenous wellness, we have mindfulness, we have undergrad program supports, we have book article club and music club. And it's been a really fun experience as members of our faculty have actually volunteered to support these activities and to bring people together and support. The students, so I have managed the wellness drop-in, and the students really enjoyed this activity. So I thought we could try it out. So again, you all should have received this word list of emotions. If not, please refer to the chat where Liz would have put it. So what research has shown is that when people don't acknowledge and address their emotions, they display lower well-being and more physical symptoms of stress like headaches. So while avoiding our feelings may seem effective in the short term, I'm good at that, on the flip side, having the right vocabulary allows us to see the real issue at hand, to take a negative experience, understand it more clearly, and build a roadmap to address the problem. So sometimes it's difficult to manage our emotions and to have our needs met if we really don't know what we're feeling in the first place. Have you ever had that experience where you're just having just a real down day and you're thinking it's beautiful out and everything's good? Why am I feeling down? So here are 4 steps that will help move you towards a better understanding of your feeling. So please refer to the feeling word list if you're struggling, just to narrow it down. So I'd like you to start by just taking a few minutes. So just sit and notice what you're feeling. Happy emotion, not so happy emotion. So just see what arises. Observe it without judgment. Emotions are neither good nor bad. They just are. Notice what it is that you're feeling without any kind of running commentary on whether you should or should not be feeling that way. Don't we do that all the time? All the shoulds or should nots. But I don't want you to stop there. So once you've identified one of the feelings, try to come up with 1 or 2 more words that describe how you're feeling. You just might be surprised at the breadth of your emotions, or that you've unearthed something deeper, buried beneath the more obvious one. Maybe something happened yesterday that's still lingering. Just going to give you a few seconds. Okay, now we're going to move to, where do I feel it? I love this. This is a mind-body connection. It's a really great book called The Body Keeps the Score. Our body does keep the score. There is a direct connection between our emotions and what we're feeling in our body, where we're feeling it. So I just want you to notice where you might be feeling that emotion in your body. And if you're having difficulty doing this, sometimes it's helpful just to close your eyes. And if you prefer not to close your eyes, just do a downward gaze. And just do a body scan. Just starting from the top of your head. And just work down from your head to your toes. And what I want you to do is just pay attention to any areas in which you might feel tightness or tension. I have to say that I'm always so surprised when I do guided meditation and I close my eyes, and then typically they say, so drop your shoulders, relax your brow. Well, I can tell you 9 out of 10 times, my shoulders are lifted and they're tight and I don't even realize it. That is where I wear my stress. So where are you feeling it? Okay, now the why. So emotions are sneaky in that they're not necessarily rational. We might have an emotional response that directly relates to the present moment, or might be a trigger again from a past experience, yesterday, maybe the weekend. The feeling might also be based on a perception of a person or a situation. So again, I just want you to continue to sit with it. Just sit with that experience. What did you identify as you're feeling? Where are you feeling it? Sometimes when you start taking time to pause, you can start following that breadcrumb trail to what happened to elicit that emotion. But you know what? If you can't figure it out, don't worry about it. Just continue to observe it without judgment. Now, my favorite part. Stay with the emotion. Notice where you feel it again, why it's there, and determine what you need in this moment, in that given moment. Give you an example. I was interviewed for this presentation about a month ago. My son, 23-year-old son, had just left for university. Of course, he's going to the US, already anxious about COVID. Got him home, now he's going back. He loves it there. He's in Utah, loves it, loves the mountains, loves the hiking. So, feeling sad that day, knew I was having this interview, and it was about this presentation. So I was reviewing everything, and it just was a great reminder that I just needed to sit with that sadness. I didn't need to clean out his room or clean my house. I just needed to do something for myself. I needed self-care. So I put in some music, did some yoga, snuggled with my puppy, and I prepared for the interview. And it was okay. I was just feeling sad. I needed to do something for myself. So here's the catch. You have to feel both the positive and the not so positive feelings in order to really fully address them and learn to sit with them. So be patient with yourself. If this is too difficult to do on your own, perhaps this is something you want to try with a counselor. I can tell you, though, that the more you can name your feeling or the feelings, the more you can respond rather than react to them. Extensive research has shown the links between writing and emotional processing. People who write about just emotional experiences have a marked increase in their physical and mental well-being. So here's our first pause. So I just want you to think for a moment and would love to have you just put some reflections in the chat about what this experience was like for you. How was it naming your feeling? Is it something that you do all the time, or was it a bit unfamiliar? Was the list helpful? Were you able to come up with a few other words? Were you surprised with what you're feeling? How are you good? How good are you at doing something for yourself, recognizing the need for self-care? So I'm looking forward to your responses. So Melissa and Cheryl, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so if you do have any reflections on what this activity was like and what aspects you found beneficial, or even if you're willing to share your responses to some of these questions that were posed during the activity, we would love to get your reflections into the chat window. And feel free, again, as a reminder, to message hashtag questions if you don't want to share it more broadly. So some comments are now coming in. So that the list was really helpful in helping to narrow down emotions, that it's really common to do basic words, mad, sad, but to get down to the nitty gritty. Another individual indicated that it made them uncomfortable. Someone else expressed appreciation that you validated it, that it's okay to have these feelings. A reminder to get back to meditation is great. And so someone indicated that they did start to cry as a result of the process, that it was moving, that it was helpful, that it was something where one might need more time to be able to do it. And there's actually a few comments about how this is something that would take time. It's helpful to acknowledge it, that it helped an individual to slow down and to take care of their emotions, and to know what to do moving forward, to be grateful for recognizing the importance of the practice. Some more descriptions of how it was surprisingly happy and positive. As we continue down, there's quite a few comments that never considered where it is felt, and that this was useful, and that it's really important to have space, and that self-care is really important. Yeah. It was some really great reflections here. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Okay, thanks very much, Melissa. And I appreciate you taking the time to put those thoughts to writing. And I also respect your honesty for those who found the practice uncomfortable. And you're exactly right for that person who said sometimes it does take time. This is not a one-off thing. In fact, I'm a proponent of a gratitude journal. Just any form of journaling where at the end of the day, you can actually reflect on how things were for you. And someone talked about gratitude and about that importance of the mind-body connection. So I hope that this is not a one-off, that you can take this practice and incorporate it into your life in a manner that's helpful to balance your feelings and manage the good and bad. The good, I don't like to call it bad, maybe the good and uncomfortable. So this is such an important slide, and I love the concept of neuroplasticity. So for the past decade, Scientists have been studying the phenomena called neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to learn new tasks and form new pathways or connections. So remember the days when we were told all of the connections and the runnings in the brain occurred during the first 5 years of life and after? So too bad, so sad if you missed that window, and that we were more or less destined to live out our lives with assets or deficits that were irreversible. But more recently, we are learning and talking more about the nature of the brain's plasticity and its ability to change the way we experience emotion. Our brains are constantly being shaped by experience, and this shift is neuroplasticity in action, changes in brain structure and organization as we experience it, and as we learn and as we adapt. So with every repetition of a thought or an emotion, we reinforce a neural pathway. And with each new thought, we begin to create a new way of being. These small changes, if repeated frequently enough, lead to changes in our brains and in how our brains work. And this quote just came to my mind. It's here's who I am, and here's how I came that way, but I'm still becoming. So I love this new way of being and this possibility for changing the way our brain responds to life in general. So I'm going to share with you a brief video. It's 2 minutes. It's excellent. Just as an FYI, so the YouTube video will not be in the video recorded copy of the webinar that you will receive, but a link to the YouTube video will be provided in a post-webinar follow-up email that you will all be receiving. I love that video, and again, love the idea of neuroplasticity. And I remember first being introduced to it and thinking, wow, you can teach an old dog new tricks, and I can change the way I've been thinking and managing my emotions. I will tell you that mindfulness and meditation is an excellent example of how neuroplasticity can work. So with meditation, your brain is effectively being rewired as you're focusing the attention on a single point rather than letting distractive thoughts occupy the mind. That's the essential goal of meditation. And as you continue to practice meditation, your brain adapts and changes, bringing with it a sense of calm, compassion, and awareness with that practice. So I practice meditation. I'm a mindfulness practitioner. I use it with all of my clients. And I actually have an app on my phone called Calm. There's so many other apps as well too. I just really enjoy Calm. And I have a wandering mind, sometimes through meditation, a busy mind. And I've learned to pause and simply focus on my breath. There are days when I catch my mind wandering in the middle of my meditation, numerous times. And the key is that I've learned to become aware of it. And I just let that other thought go. And I just come back to the breath and to a space of calm. What's incredibly empowering is that I know I'm learning in the process to train my brain to turn off the noise when I need to, and to be present and mindful in the morning, in the moment, and in the morning. That's when I do it. So I'm really looking forward to Dr. Linda Carlson's presentation on mindfulness on August the 11th. I've already registered, and I think that's the fourth segment of the Summer Wellness Series. So I'm excited to be a part of that. So here we go. Breathing. Oh my goodness. You know, it's amazing that centuries of wisdom has instructed us to pay closer attention to our breathing, the most basic of all things that we can do. Yet, maybe because it's just so basic, we really ignore it. It's easy to ignore. I want you to consider that breathing, just the breath, doing mindful breathing, is one of our most powerful stress busters. And yet, again, because it's so basic, we're not using it, we're not tapping into it. So breathing is a powerful form of emotional regulation. So I'm going to introduce you to a breathing exercise, really simple. And really, when practiced regularly, it has been proven. So mindful breathing has been proven to reduce stress and just to promote, again, that sense of calm. And what happens is that through the breath, we are triggering neurons in our brain that are telling our body it's just time to relax. And what's unique is that mindful breathing, we have to breathe, but it can be used anywhere and can be a significant enhancer for emotional regulation and wellness. And this has become a really important part of my life. So here's another great handout from CTRI, again, a public document. You all should have, again, received this. And if not, it'll be in the chat box. So I thought we could try a simple, there's a number of different breathing tips on the sheet, but I thought we could try the simple mindful breathing exercise of cycle breathing. So, and all it is inhale on the count of 4, and then just hold the breath, and then you exhale and hold the breath again. Just pause for 2 seconds. So what this exercise emphasizes is not only the breathing component, but also the mental component of just paying attention and becoming aware of the mind, of your body, the sensation of breathing, and the breath altogether. So although there's numbers attached to this breathing exercise, I don't want you to focus on the numbers. What's important is that the inhalation matches the exhalation. So typically, of course, we breathe spontaneously, but when we're doing mindful breathing, we're actually focusing on the breath. And this exercise says a count of 4, whatever you're comfortable with. So just get comfortable, sitting upright. If you can, place your feet on the floor. Drop your shoulders, if you've got any tension. And we're going to let's just do 4 sets. So again, just breathing in for 4. And I want you to breathe in through your nose. The research is saying, the science is saying, by taking a deep breath in through our nose, we can control our brain signals much more effectively. And it really helps to improve our emotional wellness and our memory as well. So breathe in through the nose if you can, and you can breathe out through the nose or out through the mouth, okay? So just do to the count of 4 again. We're gonna take a deep inhalation. Pause. Inhale. Pause. Once again. And one more. So again, simple exercise. There's many different ways you can do it. Some people like to put their hand on their stomach and do more stomach breathing, or put their hand on their chest. I actually, just back up. So when we practice this regularly, and we just slow it down to steady breathing, again, we're just activating that calming part of our nervous system. It actually helps us to slow our heart rate down. It reduces feelings of anxiety, and it does lower our stress. So I actually practice mindful breathing each morning with a 10-minute yoga stretch. And I introduced yoga during COVID. It was one of my new self-care practices. 10 minutes, it's amazing. And because I already had the breathing down, and now incorporated into 10 minutes of yoga stretching, it has become a very important source of stress relief for me and a great way to start my day. And often I will pull it in the middle of the day when I'm feeling a little bit extra stress. So here we go again, a little bit of reflection. Again, I know this is a common technique and a calming technique. So how was that for you? I'm wondering how many people are actually using mindful breathing in their wellness regime. So Melissa and Cheryl, again, I will send this over to you, and I would be curious about the reflections with this.
Thank you. There are already some reflections coming into the chat about this breathing exercise. One of them is, there are some people who have already started yoga as well or added it to their regime. The people are learning a new vocabulary, and they're learning some new techniques with this breathing. A reminder and an agreement with you, yes, it is a simple activity, but remembering it is the challenging part. So I think this tip sheet will certainly help with that. There is, oh my goodness, they're all coming in. Someone uses this regularly as a go-to. The magic in breathing is collective and mindful. Someone does it 4 moments of mindful breathing each day. And someone has also mentioned the practice of breathing has helped reduce anxiety medication. So those are some of the comments. They're in agreement with this exercise. It has taught people some new techniques, and people are grateful for this. So thank you, Jacqueline.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. And thank you for your feedback. And I'm thrilled to hear that many of you are using it. And it's so true. It is simple, and we do forget it. It's something we can just pull out of our pocket. I mean, metaphorically speaking, but we can just use it anytime. So just, again, a really effective. I remember my mother would still always says, just breathe in, take a breath, just relax. And her wisdom is such more evident today as I started as an adult practicing that more regularly. So again, thank you for that feedback. You'll see at the bottom, walking breathing. So just want to transition into this next slide and into, I just want to talk about how changing some of the basic things in life, and these are things that you're familiar with, but just such as adding exercise can have an incredibly profound impact on our mental health and well-being. So for those of you who struggle with depression, exercise has even been described as an adjunct to medication, or for some, even a substitute. And I found it interesting that someone said previously that the breathing is helping them with their anxiety as well. So maybe supplementing medication that's needed for anxiety. So what exercise does is it just stimulates the body's production of endorphins, the body's natural feel-good hormones, which can make problems. Oh, I'm going to go back. Sorry. Whoa, I jumped way ahead here. Okay. Which can make our problems, again, so much more manageable. I actually have used exercise all my life for emotional regulation. Even, I have to say, as a child, and I didn't even know. Today, I'm labeling it and saying, wow, I was emotionally regulating. My father struggled with alcoholism and some difficulties in our home and some chaos. And I played every sport possible in school. And I'm so grateful for that experience, because learning to use sports and exercise to help manage my emotions has carried with me throughout life. And it's the only way I was able to get through my PhD. on my elliptical every morning. So I really think that through COVID stress, many people are using exercise. In fact, my husband and I were out on the trail last night at Glenmore Trail Reservoir, and we were with our puppy, and I couldn't believe how many people are out there now riding their bikes, walking, jogging. I think what's so amazing about exercise is that it's so flexible. There's so many ways you can do it. You can do it at home, you can do it outdoors, you can do it at a gym with social distancing. You can do it alone with a friend, an incredible family activity as well. So what the research is saying that it can be as simple as walking. The Lancet Psychiatry has found that literally just walking can improve your mental health. 30 minutes a day, or even 3 10-minute walks can enhance emotional wellness. And I had to bring in this part about maintaining your hydration as well, which is of incredible benefit to your mental health and well-being. I gave a presentation once on emotional wellness to a large group of people, and we talked a lot about exercise. And a gentleman came up to me after, and he said, I'm sad that alongside exercise, you didn't talk about the importance of hydration. This man was struggling with depression and started to run and was not hydrating. And his electrolyte balance, he was becoming dehydrated. So he went from depressive feelings to running, to becoming dehydrated. And then he went into rages after, very unfortunate for him. I'll never forget that experience. So I have to say that hydration is so incredibly important. And this is one that I actually struggle with. In fact, the research says that we should be drinking 8-ounce glasses of water, fluid, every day. Now, of course, this depends on the individual, if there's any underlying health conditions, but that's a lot of water. I'm like 5 feet, and if I was drinking that much, I'd be in the bathroom every minute. But after doing this presentation, preparing it, I pulled out my water, and all week I've been trying really hard to drink at least 4. And I have my own water bottle as well. That's not very environmentally friendly. But so again, mild dehydration, I want to tell you, can actually sabotage the exercise component, that where you're getting that feel-good hormone, because actually mild hydration caused by exercise or even by heat can have negative effects on both your physical and mental health. So we can't talk about exercise without talking about food, and we could spend a whole presentation on eating for brain health. What we do know is that we're now realizing that there's a biochemical and physical connection between what we eat and the way it makes us feel and our mental health. So when you think about it, your brain is working 24/7 to keep your body functioning, even while you're asleep. And almost 1 liter of blood passes through the brain every minute, as it requires. Your body requires that constant supply of fuel. So the fuel that comes from the food you eat. So the bottom line is what you're eating is going to your brain. All the nutrients or lack of nutrients is going through the brain. So what's in that fuel makes all the difference. So what's in that choice of food selection? So put simply, again, what you eat directly affects the structure and the function of your brain and ultimately your mood. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here. I mean, we've heard this for centuries, and I love it. I mean, Hippocrates said it best: let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food. So this is my sweet little puppy, Coco. She's now 8 months old, and I just needed to put her in there because she loves to sleep, and when she's not sleeping, she's active. So I think fatigue, I like this quote, fatigue is a common enemy of us all. And we often don't slow down, rest up, replenish, and refill. So all the literature on emotional wellness, everything I read, covers the topic of sleep. And if you want to stay emotionally well, then sleep is critical. And according to the research, even a single night of sleep deprivation sets us up to react more strongly. I'm sure you've experienced that. I have. And to be more impulsive, and just to have ruminating negative thoughts. We just get into that pattern of, and we almost get trapped into it when we're so fatigued. Unfortunately, and I know that for some, restful nights do not come easy, and it's often connected to melatonin, which is the hormone known for creating restful sleep. So many insomniacs have problems producing enough of this very vital chemical. And on top of that, stress can inhibit the production of melatonin. Had an interesting experience yesterday. I did one of those wellness check-ins, and one of the students, I was asking how everybody's feeling, and she said, I've been struggling with my sleep, but something really interesting happened this week. I started doing meditation at night, and it just is calming me and putting me to sleep. And I said, well, do you know what? There's research now that says that people who meditate frequently have a much higher melatonin level than people who didn't meditate. And another study found that practicing meditation right before bed boosted the melatonin level at night. It did not, however, sustain that. So the recommendation was that you actually practice meditation each night, which can have a profound effect on your sleep patterns. So by studying the physiological data as well in connection with this, it was also reported that people who regularly meditate spend more time in deep wave sleep and have higher quality of REM sleep. So I found this fascinating because I had a similar experience. With my Calm app, I actually, it has sleep stories. So when I struggle with sleep at night, when my mind's busy, I will listen to a sleep story. 9 times out of 10, I don't get through it. I'm sound asleep. So again, I think this is an individual experience. I would be curious, and maybe we can talk a little bit about it in the question and answer section, if anybody has experienced any positive results from meditation at night, and if you actually knew that by meditating, you're producing melatonin. So now I want to move on to this next really great grounding technique. So this exercise can be helpful when you find yourself getting caught up in strong emotions like anxiety or anger, or if you catch yourself engaged in stressful, that circling, repetitive thinking, or even if you wake up in the middle of the night with a nightmare. Remember, I talked before, it's great about labeling your feeling and sitting with them. Well, there's times when it's anxiety attack, as an example. It's overwhelming and you want to interrupt it. This is a great grounding technique that can bring you back to the present instead of where you're going or where you've been or just the distress. So the technique, what it does, it takes you through the 5 senses to bring you back again to the present, to the here and now. Again, if you're finding yourself overwhelmed. So it just interrupts. So I just want you to think of a time when you felt that you were just really overwhelmed. So let's just go through this practice. It's a great way just to be present in the moment. Another mindfulness exercise. So again, just take a deep breath in. And I want you just to look around for 5 things that you can see. And just say them out loud. I know you're all on mute, so it's okay. Just say them out loud. 5 things that you can see. Okay. Now I want you to pay attention to your body. And I want you to think of 4 things that you can feel. And say those out loud. Maybe it's just your bottom on the chair, your hair on the back of your neck. There's 4 things that you can feel. Okay. Now I want you to listen for 3 sounds. For me, I've got a clock. I'm hearing the ticking of the clock. Maybe there's some traffic outside. So just 3 things. Now I want you to say out loud 2 things you can smell. This is one that I don't consciously think about often unless it's a real overt smell. You might even need to take a walk to smell a bar of soap or just to step outside. My husband bought me beautiful flowers this week, and the orchids, oh my goodness, they're so fragrant. And then just 1 thing you can taste. Maybe you have a mint in your mouth. And if you can't taste anything, then just say your favorite thing you like to taste. Okay. So again, what this does, it just interrupts. It takes you away from whatever is uncomfortable and is intense, and you just focusing using your 5 senses. It can be helpful to have a selection of grounding exercises that you can draw upon. You can Google it. There's so many different ways. Throwing water on your face just to, again, interrupt the uncomfortable emotion. There's many. Some people use a fidget, something, again, just anything that helps to interrupt. 1 thing you can do is just to Google all the ideas. I'm looking at the time. I know that we have to move along, so we can't talk about emotional regulation without talking about spending time on activities that you can enjoy that really improve your emotional health and well-being. Because research shows that people with hobbies are less likely to suffer from stress, low mood, and depression. During self-isolation, many are turning to the arts. Read an article in You Today, maybe about a month ago, and it was by Brittany Harker Martin from the Workman School of Education here at UC. And she says that practicing art can be used to build capacity for managing mental and emotional well-being. And what I do know is that some doctors, psychiatrists, are even prescribing art therapy. So this is my son, my oldest son, with his new puppy, Sully. I have never seen him so happy. He really loves his dog. And emerging research is showing an array of ways in which dogs or other pets can provide comfort, support, and a sense of calm in our daily emotional and psychological stressors. I smiled when I recently read a quote that said, "A dog is the only thing on earth that loves you more than you love yourself." So simply put, hobbies and activities that get you out and about, such as walking a dog or painting, can make you feel happier and more relaxed. So this is one of my favorites. So finding safe and sacred places in nature and in our communities can also be sustaining. I really embrace the First Nations perspective on health and wellness. This is what they say about the land. Land is what sustains us physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. The land is where we come from, and it's our identity. It is more than just the earth. It includes the ocean, the air, the food, medicines, and all of nature. land and health are closely intertwined because land is the ultimate nurturer of people. It provides not only physical, but emotional and spiritual sustenance because it inspires and provides beauty and it nurtures our soul. And for community represents the people where we live, where we come from, and where we work. There are many different communities of place, knowledge, interests, experiences, and values. These all have a role in our health. So safe and sacred spaces allow for spending time alone, which is essential for hearing our own voice, our inner wisdom, or simply for sanity. It lowers our blood pressure. It releases stress. It gets us in touch with dimensions that are bigger than us. It creates a sense of balance, and it can build a reservoir of peace. There's just practical tips to finding balance in our life as well. Just want to go through these quickly. So we're pulled in a million different directions daily, making balance hard. We just need to set realistic goals and priorities and tackle what needs to be done first. Sometimes I just have to make that priority list. And we can't forget to reserve time for our own needs. And just learning to say no. Sometimes no is a complete sentence. And we just have to refrain from overextending ourselves. At the very least, we need to ask for help. And if you can't do it, explain kindly, but firmly. Sorry, I'm not available. Early studies have shown that mental health is and will likely suffer due to the COVID-19 pandemic in Canada, and that it is particularly connected to social isolation and being physically separated from our loved ones. I recently read an article by Myrna Wiseman, who's a professor of epidemiology and psychiatry, and she talked about this new situation of forced social distancing is an interesting paradox. The more we are ordered to stay apart, the more we realize how important our human connections really are. And I really love this. And just that focus of getting our mind away from what's uncomfortable. And I love this challenge of just try spending at least 1 hour each day, not checking news or email, but just finding a way to connect with a family or a friend. My daughter-in-law, a calligrapher, found this beautiful quote by Martha Beck and created this for me. I think it provides an interesting perspective. What you take away from COVID experiences or any other emotional, uncomfortable experience will largely depend on your circumstances and on your perspective. I really hope that you have learned something new today or strengthened what you already know and practice. Often, when we pause to take stock of what is most important to our well-being, the things we need to be at our best, the things we need to do to be at our best, and the things we need to avoid become more clear. This time is a challenge, of course, for all of us, but you can also look at it as an opportunity. I would encourage you to ask yourself, or those you were worried about, what are the things you've never had time to do that you've always wanted to do? Have you discovered any treasures that you never would have imagined amid COVID? I've heard beautiful stories of renewed friendships, of online classes, learning something new, attempting a new recipe, cleaning out the closet, planting a garden for the first time, painting the first picture, adopting a pet, starting a regular exercise routine, experimenting with mindfulness, trying out new grounding techniques, and just simply pausing to reflect what you're feeling. All that input that can go into the brain while you're navigating the limitations of social distancing can be incredibly therapeutic. So just accepting our emotions, staying teachable to what they have to offer, and embracing what we never imagined. I hope that this presentation was the beginning of many more discussions like this. So to close, I would like you to pull out your healthy habit log. Do you feel validated that you have been maintaining wonderful, healthy behaviors and habits? Have you learned anything new that's going to help you to move forward in your goal to maintain emotional wellness and overall well-being? So I would now be pleased to open it up for reflection, for questions, and just to hear back from you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I do see the time and am cognizant that we are actually at the end of the session. Jacqueline, if you do have a few minutes, if you want to take a look at the chat, I'm going to close the seminar, and if you do have questions and you have to go, then feel free to email Jacqueline at jacqueline.smith1@ucalgary.ca, and she is happy to answer your questions. Thank you, Jacqueline, for putting up the slide. And so this concludes the third 2020 Summer Wellness Series webinar on behalf of the Taylor Institute of Teaching and Learning and the Campus Mental Health Strategy. I want to thank all of the participants that joined us today. Big thank you to Jacqueline for facilitating such a great webinar. The recording of this video will be made available on the Taylor Institute website. The facilitator slides will not be sent, but copies of the worksheets will be shared again afterward. And to let everyone know, there is one more webinar in the Summer Wellness Series on August 11th, Dr. Linda Carlson's Mindfulness as a Coping Strategy in Times of Crisis. To sign up, go to taylorinstitute.ucalgary/series/summer-wellness to register. Thank you again, Jacqueline, for being with us today. Have a great afternoon, everyone.